Alright guys, so for this video I'm just going to quickly go over character creation and maybe do a little bit on the tutorial part of Incarnam. So I'll start off by explaining everything you see here. So on the main page you just click on whatever one of the classes. You can see your gender up here. You can switch between the genders of the classes, male and female obviously. You have your color wheel over here. You can change basically all the colors on most classes. A few of them might have some colors that can't be changed. I don't know any of them as an example though. And then down here you have the different faces, which just changes the face. There's four different faces and then like an angrier variant on the face. So we'll start off with Feka. So you can see up here they describe each of them somewhat. It's a little confusing maybe. Um, and they don't fully go into the class. So Fekas are basically just like a tank character, a support character. They do decent damage as well, but they're mostly for, as it says here, protection, tanking, because their spells reduce damage a lot. They can even make people immune, entire teams immune. And that's basically what they're used for, is being able to completely negate damage, or at least the majority of damage done to you by monsters. They also have glyphs, which they can place in the ground, and those glyphs do multiple things. They can do damage, they can make it so that people can't move as much, so they lose MP, or they can't attack as much, they lose AP. Next is the Osamodas. Osas are basically the general summoners in the game. They summon basically all their spells are summons, and then stuff that buffs summons. You can also use the buffs on characters, and actually most people do focus on that because when you summon monsters, you have to rely on the AI controlling them instead of yourself, and that is a little bit annoying. So as it says here, summons, improvement, that's the buff, so you can cast on people. And then also, it's actually a pretty good healer. They have one good heal spell, which they use to heal their summons, but it is pretty solid on players as well. Uh, Next, Enutrophs. So Enutrophs are basically, how do I describe it? They're like the loot grabber characters in the game. They focus on an element called chance, and that increases your item drop rate, basically. Uh, but ignoring that part, they also they have several buffs in their spells, right? They also focus largely on long range attacks in the game, and they also do a lot of MP raping, so they make it harder for people to move. They have a couple summons, um, some of which are actually fairly good since they reworked the very last one you unlock. A very interesting character. SRAMs are high damage dealers and stealth characters. They go invisible and they place traps on the ground, which are also invisible for characters to see. Um, so you have to focus a lot on your positioning, where you put your traps. Also, you can reposition people using your traps and using some of your spells. That's pretty important. A lot of their traps do rape MP. I think one rapes AP, but it's not too useful because you don't build wisdom, which increases AP raping chance. But the MP one is good, and they do very high damage, very high end damage class. Next is Zellers. I actually can't talk too much about them. They got reworked very recently, and I haven't looked too in-depth in all the spell changes. There's new telefragging stuff. I couldn't tell you about it. But they have good positioning so they can teleport around the map. They are good at removing AP, or at least they used to be. I assume they still are. And they're the best class for that. They make it very hard for things to actually cast attacks on you, as long as they're AP raping them. And they have pretty good damage. It's on the higher end. It's not the best, but it is very good all the same. Next is the Echo Flip. This is a very interesting class as well. It says heals here, but really you're only going to be healing people if you go intelligence, and it's very weird. But they do very good damage. They're one of the better damage dealing classes in the game. Um, they also have nice buffs, MP buffs rather, and another spell called Smell, which is really interesting. And then they have stuff like Echo Flip's Luck, where you can either take double damage or get healed whenever you get hit. Lots of interesting stuff. So this is a very kind of like a luck-based class, and that's kind of their thing, you know, Eclipse coin. It's very good. I enjoy Eclipse a lot. And Eurypsa is your generic healer class. You can go off heal and go like pure damage on any Eurypsas, but usually people just go intelligence and focus on giving good heals, improvements. They can buff people's AP. They're one of few classes that can actually do that, and it's very important. Um, to have that because just more AP means you can attack more, obviously. And then they do have some MP rape as well. You don't usually have enough points to level these spells unless you're very specifically like in need of them, because any Ripsa has a lot of useful healing spells that you probably want to level above your MP raping ones. Next is IO. This is your strongest, or well, yeah, basically your strongest damage dealing class. They focus on doing massive damage using spells like Iop's Wrath, Destructive Sword, or is it Sword of Judgment? I don't know. One of these in swords. They have a bunch of really high nuke damage spells. They also buff each other their own damage as well as their teammates' damage, but usually they buff their own because it's probably better. Really high damage buff spells, and then positioning. They have spells which make them jump fair distances, and moving people around the map as well. They can knock back people and they can make them so they can't move. It's pretty important. But IOP is definitely one of the easier classes in the game just because they have straight up high damage, not too hard to play. Craws are your archer class. They do also very great damage, and they do it at a range, obviously. Um, Highest range class in the game. Very important, very good. Their positioning is pretty solid because they can attack from far and they can push people and they can make it so that uh, people can't move as well. They can make it so people can't attack as well. They have a very good kit on them for being very annoying, basically, for making it so that people can't get close to them, and that when they do, it might be too late. And then they can also buff their own spells very well. They don't so much buff other people's. They only have one or two things for that. One which increases damage, one which increases range for people. Those are actually pretty good buffs. Next is Sedita. Sedita is a very odd class. They do summons. They have pretty good damage, pretty solid damage. I think they're one of the lesser appreciated high damage classes. People are actually playing them as like healers and stuff like that now, going int. It's pretty weird, but their summons do a wide variety of things from damage to MP rape and AP rape. They're pretty solid. People like doing like dolly builds where they just summon a bunch of dolls and hide, and it gets very annoying very quickly. And then obviously because those dolls do all that, and they have their own spells as well, they're very good at AP and MP rape. It's pretty solid. Next is my favorite class personally, and this is the tank class of the Sacrier. Sacriers focus on taking in as much damage as possible. They often try to surround themselves with enemies so that their teammates don't get attacked, and then they also sacrifice themselves for their teammates by switching positions or making it so they take all the damage their teammates take. They also get 2 points of health for every 1 point they put into it, which is different from every other class. So because they can switch positions with teammates and stuff like that, and enemies as well, and they pull enemies and all this fun stuff, they're also very great at positioning, and it can be one of the harder classes to play because you don't always know where your team wants an enemy or where they don't want it. So usually it's like a lot of confirmation with your team, making sure that you don't do anything that they are specifically planning against. And they also do very good damage because whenever they get hit, as long as they cast a punishment spell, when they get hit, their own damage is buffed like greatly. They can actually do some of the best damage in the game when at full buff because the buff is so great. So yeah, my favorite class in the game, Sacrier. Next is Pandawa. This is another really good class. Almost a class that everybody recommends having because of its great positioning. They do decent damage at long range and close range, and they can be a tank as well because you can just focus on positioning. But basically, the Pandawa is focused on reducing enemies' resistances so that everybody on your team hits more on them, and then they also can pick up and throw enemies and allies. This picking up and throwing them thing is very good because it means that you can reposition enemies and allies as much as you want. It's very low cost to do this. So it basically means that fights can't go wrong for you because you can just push people back, reset the enemies, right? You just throw them away from you if you're in trouble, or throw your allies away if they're in trouble and you can't just throw the enemies. But the throwing mechanic is one of the most important mechanics in the game. Almost every team will have a panda. Rogues are a pretty weird class. They focus on placing bombs on the ground and then basically manipulating the positioning of the map and everybody on it so that you end up in the bombs. And the bombs do massive damage, and they also can rape AP or MP. This is a pretty weird class. It requires a little bit more skill, I'd say, because of the bomb placements, and if your bombs die, then you're getting pretty close to being useless, right? But when you get that good bomb combo in there and you place some monsters or some enemies on it, it does crazy high damage, and it's really good. Next is... Okay. All right, and I'm back. So, unfortunately, there is a timer on creating your class, which is super annoying, and I got kicked out of the game. So, if you notice a transition, that will be it. Also, I took some time to listen to the video I was making before, and you might be hearing a little bit of a roaring sound in the background. That would be the NHL playing. Uh, I don't think it's too loud, so I'm just gonna deal with it for now, but let us continue. So, the next class is the Masquerader. Masqueraders are one of the newer classes, but they are, well, new. It came out a couple of years ago now. But they are very fun, actually. People really enjoy playing them. So they play as tanks because one of their spells gives them a shield, uh, or several of the spells do, rather. It's a different shield from Fekka's. Fekka's just straight up reduce damage, whereas Masquerader's shields give you basically a bonus to health. It's a different type of health, and that health gets removed before your regular health. Um, and you can do that very, very effectively. You can shield for crazy amounts based on your health, I think it is, your base health. So they often build a lot of health and go very tanky. The protection is probably their shields. Yeah, their shields absorb damage. They have very good damage as well. They have a lot of buffing um, spells, and also I think another important thing about them is they have three different types of states basically that they go into. They have the Coward Mask, they have the Psychopath Mask, and they have another one called the Classic Mask, which I can't find. But basically, these three things change what they can do. So the Coward Mask will make it easier for running away and dodging. You can see plus 12 dodge. Um, Psychopath Mask gives you a huge damage buff. It says 40%, but it goes up to like 100 and something at max level. That's a very important spell as well, and it makes it so that all their damage abilities come on unlocked. That's another point, is that the different masks lock certain spells so you can't use them, so you need to switch mask first. And then the classic mask is for like uh, I don't even know. I think it's like MP raping, also movement and shields as well as another one that does in the classic mask. So they flip between the masks at certain points in the fight, and that helps them prepare for whatever's coming up right next. Uh, Very interesting class. I actually really enjoy masqueraders. Very strong. Next is the Foggernaut. Foggernauts are another new class. They focus on placing turrets on the ground. They have three different types of turrets. There's the attack turret, there's the uh, lifesaver, I think it's called. I don't know. There's like a healing turret basically, and then there's another turret which is uh, a damage one, right? And then you place three turrets. They can all be on the ground at the same time, unlike the psychopath or the masquerader, where they can only be in one mass state at a time. And but you can basically you just buff these turrets, and you can only buff one at a time. But they have different effects when they're at max buff, and they get stronger the more you buff them, up to a cap. Uh, they also have really good positioning. They can move things around based on their turrets. They can move themselves around even better, and they do pretty high damage actually. They have pretty solid damage coming from all their elements. No matter what you do, you're going to be pretty strong here. Uh, Very different game styles for each one as well. Their heals can come, well, they have one healing spell, but they focus mainly on the turret. When you level up your turret, you place it at the very back, somewhere that's going to be safe, so if people are hurt, they can just run back there and heal off of it. But when you buff it up, you can cast a spell on somebody, and then it heals them no matter how far away they are from the turret, and that heal is usually pretty dang strong. Uh, they're more situational heals than any Ripsa, because any Ripsa is just heals no matter what. And these guys need to be in a certain position, or the turret needs to survive, which isn't always easy to do. Foggernauts are a pretty interesting class. And finally is Eliotropes. This is a class I'm going to be playing as. I can't tell you what this class is about because I haven't played it, but it looks like it's based largely off of portals, and I think that can be pretty interesting. So I'm going to make one right now, and we'll try and play it with that random name. Let's go. I guess one thing about the reset is that
Welcome, young
since,
soul.
okay, that's actually pretty
Welcome.
distracting. So you can listen to the tutorial cinematic there. But one good thing about the reset there is that I can actually make my class, because the timeout thing that happened to kick me off usually makes it so you can't create your class as well. So yeah, I watched the intro in cinematic. I think it's not bad, but it was a little weird. I didn't expect it to talk. So then you start off your tutorial. This is pretty self-explanatory. They walk you through it fairly well. So you can get all these items if you do it, or you can leave and not get any of these items. I usually just do it because it takes like a minute, and it gives you like this weird pirate hat, a shield, which you can wear, and you can't get any other way. And if since you're starting off new, usually, you're not going to have anything else to wear. So just continue with that. So the first thing it tells you to do is just move. Say move, talk to this guy. Uh, you can read what he says if you want. That would be great. Thank you. He's just going to give you the tutorial. He gave you one item. You open it up, and then you click on your inventory, and you equip it on. I'm going to take a second here to just explain this. So your inventory is this button. They're going to tell you that. You're going to need to switch. So you have your resources, you have your usable items, and you have your equipment. For now, just focus on this because you're just going to be equipping the stuff that the tutorial tells you to put on. Like next, you're going to get boots. And then it'll point you towards everything. So if you pay attention to that, you should get a general walkthrough of the interface, at least at the start. And I'll make another video probably right after this explaining the entire interface immediately after. I won't go into too much detail right now. So you close that and tells you now you have to change your map. You change maps by like going to the edge of the screen, and then it makes you walk through to the next map. That's just how the map system works on this game. In the tutorial, you can't close this, otherwise it cancels the tutorial for some reason. So right now it wants me to attack a scarecrow. You attack things by clicking on them. And then it wants me to move. It wants me to move here even though I started there. So I just need to move anywhere. And down here is to ready up. The tutorial is pretty basic and it doesn't even tell you how to do anything. So it just wants you to move forward and then use your punch spell, which is going to be weak as schnit. And then you end your turn. And then next the idea is just to kill it. So I don't even know what my attack spell is here. What's the range on this? Huh. Insult. Okay, I'm going to insult this guy and he will die. Cool. He couldn't take my harsh words. Leveled up. You can just ignore that for now. You get a new spell at level 3. Every time you level up, you get health, a spell point, so you can level up a spell, and some characters points. Five exactly. Talk to this guy again. Very well. He gave you some more items to put on. Just click as much as you can here and put them all on. One thing I'm not going to be a fan of as the Heliotrope is that you have a hat on naturally. So when you put on a hat, it's just going to like clip the hat you're wearing over the hat that you're already wearing, or the hood rather. I think it's going to be pretty ugly, but I guess we'll see. And then attack this guy who looks pretty big, but he's kind of nothing. I don't think it's even possible to lose this fight as long as you cast spells every turn. 1, 2, 3. Alright, I'm going to do this. I'm gonna try and be freaking okay, so you can okay. I'm gonna stop fucking around so that we can actually just end this fight. Okay, wow, can I cast this twice? I can. Okay, that's pretty strong actually for a starting class. Usually you don't get level 3 AP spells right at the start. Basically just click on your spells, kill the thing, move on with your life. Definitely take time to read everything it's telling you because it will explain some stuff that I probably will end up missing in my video that comes up after this. And then after this, you immediately end your tutorial island thing and you get your hat. Let's see how bad it looks. You know what? It gets rid of the ears, so that's not terrible, I guess. It's like wearing a hat over a hood. I mean by the ears is the horns that I gave you on the hat. I think that's an important change. I'm going to finish up one last thing, which is really freaking quick. So just talk to this guy. It'll give you some nice experience and level you up once, I think. Find out more about what he's trying to tell you. Just confirm, accept, and then to end that quest that you just got, you come down here. I do this on all my new characters because it's just habit. I used to do this when I first made my characters, and I never stopped doing it. So you just do the first one. You basically just try not to be mean to these two retired adventurers. So first, last, 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 done. Talk to her as well. First, last, last, last. You can read it if you want. I think it's a lot of flavor text, and the starting island you're on here has a lot of interesting quests, which you do once and then you never want to do again. Let him continue, take the book, levels you up to 4, that's nice. You can confirm, and I think he gives you another quest. And if you're just starting out, I would definitely try and follow that, but I probably won't go over that quest because it just hasn't given enough experience to be worth the time, at least for me. So I'm going to stop recording here, and thank you guys for watching.